Hello, what we're going to be covering in this video is Lesson 4.3 System View Controllers. So the view controllers that we're going to be looking at, the UI Activity Controller, which allows you to share content with other installed apps. The SF Safari View Controller, you can go ahead and present information from the internet without exiting your app. The UI Alert Controller, it allows you to present new information and options, as well as how to respond to the user's actions. A UI Image Picker View Controller, which allows you to access the device's camera and photo library. And then finally, the MF Mail Compose View Controller, which allows you to send emails from within the application. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a new project called System View Controllers. And after we go ahead and create that project, then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating the scene that's shown on this page. We're going to add in a UI image view, and then we're going to add 4 buttons below that in a horizontal stack view. So let me go out into Xcode and create a new project. Click on Next. And it'll be System View Controllers. And I will go ahead and click on Next and click on Create. Okay, so I have the application open up. Since we're going to be using the UI image, what I need to do is I need to go ahead and drag an image. So let me scroll over. I'm going to select my assets folder, and I'm going to drag that image into my assets folder so I can use it with my UI image view. So we've added that back in. Now I'll go into my main storyboard. And I will go ahead, find an image view, drag that in. I will go ahead and position it. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and then add that image that I drug in into the image view. So after I've done that, what I need to do is I need to add some buttons. So I'll just go ahead, add in a button and add that in. And then I'll go ahead and select the button and do a Command C and a Command V to go ahead and get several other buttons added. And I'll kind of stack them up. Then what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to go ahead and select all my buttons, and I will select a stack view. Okay, so they've been added to a stack view. Then what I'm going to do is the distribution, I'm going to set to fill equally, and I will go ahead and set my spacing equal to 0. Okay, so I've gone ahead, I've added my 4 buttons, I've added my image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set up my constraints. So the first one is for my image view. So I will go ahead and set up my constraints to, we'll go ahead, set it up to 16, the left, the right, and the top. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set my height as 245. So I'll go ahead and add those constraints. And then what I want to do is I want to add the constraints for my stack view. So I will go ahead, click on that stack view. And what I want to do for that is I want to go ahead and my top constraint will be 20. My leading and trailing will both be set to 16. And I will go ahead, 16, and then I will go ahead and leave the height to 30. So I'll go ahead, click on my Add 4 Constraints. So the next thing I want to do is I want to update my button names. So the first one will be Share. The next button will be Safari. Next button will be Camera. And the last button will be Email. Okay, so I've updated that, so let's go back in and see what we want to do next. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating an outlet from the image view, and then we're going to be creating 4 actions, one for each of our buttons. So let me go ahead and get back into my controller. So I will go ahead, open up my Assistant Editor. So the first action that I want to go ahead and add is for my image view. So I will just go ahead and make sure it's selected. And I will go ahead and just call it Image View, and I will click on Connect. Add an empty space. Add one more empty space, and then I'll add one for each one of my buttons. So it will be Share button tapped, UI button. I will connect it. And then we'll do the same thing for Safari. And it'll be Safari button tapped, and it will be a UI button. I will connect it. Do the same thing for Camera. Photos button tapped. And I will connect it. And then finally, we'll do the same thing for our email. And it'll just be Email button tapped, and it will be a UI button, and I will go ahead and connect that. So the first controller we're going to go ahead and add is the UI Activity View Controller. So what that does is it provides a familiar experience that allows the user to share content from one app with other apps on their device. So what we're going to do is when the user taps on the Share button, we will go ahead and present that to the user. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pause this video, add in the code, and then after I add in the code, we'll go ahead and walk through the code. Click on my Build button. Let me stop it. I want to use iPhone 8 again, so we'll click on the iPhone 8. And we'll wait for the application to actually come up. So the phone simulator has actually come up here. And I guess it's coming up. It should be up here any second. Okay, so the application has actually come up right now. So let me go ahead and click on the Share button. And what happens is the apps that we could go ahead and share on this device have actually popped up. So what you see may be different from what is currently being presented right now. So I will go ahead and cancel, and we will go back into our code right now. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and implement an SF Safari view controller, which allows you to open a Safari web browser inside of your app to a specific web page. So the first thing we need to do in order to implement that is we need to go ahead and add a new import. So we will go ahead and import our Safari services. And then what we're going to do then is under our Safari, make sure I spell that right. And then under our Safari button tapped, what we're going to do is we're going to make an instance of the Safari view controller. You need to create a URL from a string. That'll be the site you'll present to the user. And then you need to create an instance of the view controller with the URL you just created, and then you present the Safari view controller to the user. So I will pause the video and then add in the code, and then we'll talk about the code after I've added it back in. Okay, so I've added the code in for our Safari view controller. So what we're doing is we're setting up a URL. What we're going to do is we're just going to go to the Apple site, and then after that I've created that view controller object, and then we need to present it to the actual user. So let me go ahead and run the app, and we will see what happens here. Okay, so it's come up. I will go ahead and click on my Safari button, and it looks like it's working. It's going to the apple.com site, and it's brought up my apple.com site for me. So this is the way that you can go ahead and present a website to your user in your app without having to go into Safari on its own. So we're going to go ahead and end part one right here. So what we're going to talk about in the next video is to present an alert controller to the user.